Welcome back to New Metal Releases. This is a show where every week I sit down and go through the new metal albums that dropped over the weekend. I give you a quick introduction to the band, talk about a few key tracks, share my thoughts, and give each release a score out of 10. As usual, I'm going to rank everything from my lowest score to my highest score. So the stuff I liked the least is going to come first, and then we're going to go towards the releases that I thought were the best of the week. So what do we have this week? We have quite a bit going on. There are a couple of power metal releases, including one from a band I actually reviewed back in 2022. There's some thrash, both old school and modern. There's black metal, including a couple of releases that really impressed me. There's some progressive rock and metal. There's some gothic rock. There's some groove metal. And a couple of these are going to be singles from big acts that have new albums on the way. One of those singles actually features a legendary band as a guest, and the other one is from a symphonic black metal band that I admittedly did not know very well going in. Overall, it's a pretty strong week. A few releases that were outside of my comfort zone, but that's what this show is all about. And just to let you know, I reviewed the Black Label Society album and the Hellripper album in separate videos. You can find them on my channel, so I won't be talking about them in this video. These are going to be more underground bands, and I want to try to keep it this way going forward. So let me get into it, and starting with number 12. Kicking things off at number 12, we have the third studio album from Raibard, titled Postscript. Was released on March 27, 2026 through their own Riker imprint. I want to be upfront with you on this one. It's not really a metal album. It's more metal adjacent, if anything. I would describe it as a grungy, progressive rock record. The closest comparison I can come up with is something like Pearl Jam meeting Jethro Tull. Two very different bands, I know, but that's the kind of vibe. Opening track Time is a very atmospheric and folky track. It has a meditative quality to it. Postscript is a soft acoustic track with a dreamy atmosphere. Nothing too aggressive there. Path of Day goes even further in the acoustic singer-songwriter direction. Really reminds me of Ian Anderson and some of that classic Jethro Tull material. Steppin' and Trippin' moves more into blues rock territory, something like a mix of Counting Crows and Blues Traveler. End of Summer brought a little more energy with a grunge rock feel, maybe something like Dinosaur Jr. And Moments Pride has a country rock element that I was not expecting at all. Look, this is not what I usually cover on the show, but I try to keep an open mind. I think this is a quality record for what it is. I need more time with it for now. It's still a good album, but it's going to get a 7 out of 10, and that score could go up over time. At number 11, we have Void, the new album from UK progressive rock and metal band Godsticks. This came out on March 27, 2026 through Kscope. Godsticks have actually been around since 2009. They burst onto the progressive rock scene with their self-titled EP, and they were immediately recognized for their originality. This one is hard to categorize. I would call it modern progressive metal with a lot of interesting textures and sounds. This band is for fans of Porcupine Tree, Periphery, The Ocean, Leprous. Hold Back was a stand-up for me. Has a lot of computerized electronic sounds layered over modern progressive metal guitar riffs, and the combination actually works really well. Watch It Burn was a heavier track with more energy and a sharper edge to the overall tone. Master of a Plan is probably the most atmospheric track in the album, with very complex melodies and instrumentation that reminded me a little bit of Tool and even Radiohead at certain points. And then Torn Again goes back to a heavier direction with some more straightforward heavy metal riffing and the addition of some cool violins, which was a nice touch. Overall, I thought it was a good record. Another one I need more time with. Just like the last one, the score could go up, but for now, I'm giving Void 7.5 out of 10. Coming in number 10, we have Valarium, the debut EP from Swedish gothic rock and gothic metal band Ashen Sun. This dropped on March 27, 2026 through Desert Plain Records. Now, this one I found pretty interesting. Ashen Sun was only formed in 2024, so they are a very new band. They play dark gothic rock with a 90s sound, incorporates cold wave synth and cinematic textures. Lyrically, it's pretty bleak stuff. They're covering themes like mental claustrophobia, devotion turning toxic, cities collapsing, and end of the world imagery. So it's pretty dark stuff. Musically, I thought they sound like a mix between Sisters of Mercy and Type O Negative, which is a great combination if you're into that sound. I also heard some industrial elements in a few tracks that reminded me a bit of Rammstein, particularly on The Ashes of the World. And the title track, and Valerian, was another highlight for me. It has violins and a really ethereal, haunting atmosphere that I thought was very effective. The only downside, it's a short EP, only 6 tracks, around 20 minutes. You just start to get into it and then it's over. But from what is there, it's solid. I'm giving Valerian 8.2 out of 10. At number 9, we have Laux, new album from Polish black metal band Varmia. This one came out March 27, 2026 through M Theory Audio. Now, I want to be upfront, black metal is a little outside my comfort zone, but I try to keep an open mind when something interesting crosses my desk, and this one is genuinely interesting. Varmia was formed in 2016 by a composer known as La Sota, with a mission of fusing black metal with musical influences that pay tribute to the ancient Baltic tribes of the historical Warmia region of northern Poland. The band uses harsh growls and native Polish lyrics, with occasional clean singing that draws from traditional East Central European vocal techniques. And on top of that, they incorporate traditional instrumentation, including tagelharpa, goat horn, wood tuba, and something called a krivula. I don't know what that is. Song titles are in Polish, so I'm not going to attempt to pronounce them. But I can tell you that the first track was immediately striking. It's big and dense with an overall very evil black metal sound. Track 2 had a similar feel, but with more layers. It's the kind of track where every time you listen closely, you pick up something new. 5 was also stand out because it had some riffs that push more into death metal territory, which I always appreciate. This is for fans of Enslaved, Satyricon, Wolves in the Throne Room, Wardruna, and Helung. If any of those names mean something to you, you need to check it out. I'm giving Laux 8.3 out of 10. Number 8 is a new single. This is Ulfgate and Blood set up from Dimmu Borgir, the official music video for the new song that just dropped. This is what I watched, and it's a preview from their upcoming album, Grand Serpent Rising, which will be released May 22nd. I'm actually looking forward to it. I've never listened to this band before because I've heard a few singles, but I haven't really spent a lot of time with them. But I know they are one of the big names in symphonic black metal, and I know they're often compared to Cradle of Filth, which is a band I like. So I went into it with fresh ears. I enjoyed it a lot. It's mid-paced black metal with dense guitars, a layer of melody running through it. What I appreciated most was how they blend keyboards and the guitars. A lot of bands try to do that and end up feeling cluttered, but this one feels purposeful. The dark and evil atmosphere is very much intact. Based on the single, I'm looking forward to the full album, and for the single alone, I give it 8.4 out of 10. And number 7 is Wayfarer, the second full-length album from German heavy metal band Kerrigan. This was released on March 27, 2026 through High Roller Records. Kerrigan formed in Freiburg in 2019, and Wayfarer is a follow-up to their debut album, Blood Moon. It's a modern band playing classic heavy metal. They do it really well. I heard a pretty significant Iron Maiden influence throughout, which you're not going to hear me complain about. The songwriting is strong, riffs are memorable, energy feels genuine rather than a retro exercise. One of the standout tracks for me was Dystopia. It deals with current technological developments and their impact on society, which is pretty relevant right now. Musically, it's a solid heavy metal track. Then Blood and Steel was another highlight with an accessible and catchy chorus. It mixes the feel of Saxon and classic Manowar. Then there was Red Light Tower. It might be the most epic track of the record. It has a big cinematic feel, and it does what classic heavy metal does very well. So if you're a fan of bands like Haunt or Witch Hazel, I think Kerrigan is right up your alley. I'm giving Wayfarer 8.4 out of 10. At number 6, we have No One Escapes Death, the new EP from San Antonio crossover thrash band Life Cycles. It was released on March 27, 2026 through 1126 Records. San Antonio has a real tradition when it comes to Texas thrash sound, and Life Cycles is carrying that torch. It's a 6-track EP. It's old school crossover thrash with a modern touch. If you're familiar with Power Trip at all, that's probably the most accurate comparison. Vocals lean more into death metal territory, which gives it an extra edge. Guitars are absolutely crushing throughout, and the bass guitar has a thick low-end weight. As for the songs, Fatal Path was a mid-thrasher, sets the tone nicely. No Man's Land brought back those crushing riffs with a lot of palm muted guitar work and dive bomb solos that felt very natural and purposeful. The End Still Waits was probably my favorite track. It begins with a haunting acoustic intro before developing into a slower moving but absolutely crushing thrasher. That contrast is effective. It's a great EP. Guys are doing the Texas thrash thing at a high level, so I'm giving No One Escapes Death 8.5 out of 10. And number 5 is another single. This is Invoke War, a new track from Frozen Soul, featuring Rob Flynn of Machine Head. It's taken from the upcoming album, No Place of Warmth, which will be out May 8th, 2026. Now, I have mentioned Frozen Soul on the show before. They've one of the best up-and-coming death metal bands working right now. Their sound is reminiscent of Bolt Thrower, which is high praise in my book. It's death metal, but has an accessible quality that makes it easy to get into, even if you're not a hardcore death metal listener. On this particular track, it feels like they stripped their sound back a little. It's built around chugging riffs and a really memorable groove, and the Machine Head feature fits in naturally. It doesn't feel forced or like a gimmick. The collaboration makes sense musically. Even in its stripped down form, it's a really strong track. I'm looking forward to the full album, and I'm giving this single, Invoke War, 8.6 out of 10. This is Power Paladin. And it's coming in number 4 with Beyond the Reach of Enchantment. This is the second album from Power Paladin, released March 27, 2026 through Roar, a division of Reigning Phoenix Music. Now, I have a personal connection to this one. I reviewed Power Paladin's debut album with the Magic of Windfire Steel back in 2022. So the record was really strong, and I have been curious to see where they would go next. The album is a clear step forward. The sounds more mature, more refined. They're influenced by Iron Maiden, Dio, Halloween, but they have developed their own modern power metal identity on top of those influences. Where the debut was more straightforward power metal, this album pulls in elements of traditional heavy metal, neoclassical, and even a little bit of thrash. It opens with a shredding guitar solo, tells you right away it's going to be a different experience. The late Lords of Athel Loren returned to the classic power metal sound, which felt nice. Balanced with the album. The Royal Road was heavier with some riffs that had a definite thrash energy to them, and Camelot and Rock City was fun and epic track. It's exactly the kind of thing that power metal fans live for. It's a better album than the debut. I'm giving Beyond the Reach of Enchantment 8.7 out of 10. Now we're in the top 3. At number 3 we have Arrival, the new album from heavy metal band Acidosis. Originally formed in Miami and now based in Los Angeles, Acidosis blends the power of early Metallica and Anthrax with the urgency of Municipal Waste and the melodic sensibilities of classic Iron Maiden. That's a combination that's very much in my wheelhouse. The album is short, only about 26 minutes, but wastes absolutely no time. Opening track Arrival hits immediately with galloping guitars and powerful drums. They Live was more of an old school thrasher with some complex riffing, and this song kept me engaged. Hostile Negotiations moved more into traditional heavy metal territory, had some really cool bass guitar, and it stood out in the mix. Tied to the tracks was another thrasher with some awesome distorted bass guitar, gave it a really raw edge, and Mankind had a denser sound that brought back the classic thrash from start to finish. It's a really cool album. It's short, it's focused, it delivers exactly what you want from a band with these influences. I'm giving Arrival 8.8 out of 10. And number 2 is Kintsugi from Portuguese groove metal band Chaosaddiction. This dropped March 27, 2026 through Masha Records. Chaosaddiction takes heavy inspiration from the raw and minimalistic metal of the 90s. Bands like Machine Head, Pantera, Sepultura, Corrosion of Conformity. Then it adds elements of sharp cutting-edge hardcore. The album is 9 tracks at 35 minutes. Into Chaos is a standout with Slayer-influenced riffs and an intense build. Drama King draws from the angular rhythmic world of Meshuggah and Suicide Silence, which is a combination of not expecting but it works. Sinto Muito has this frantic hardcore energy. It's sung in Portuguese. The title translates to both I am sorry and I feel too much, which is genuinely interesting, kind of cool lyrical double meaning. But what really impressed me was someone which is a completely different approach. It's a bare bones, it's minimalistic, just a man and his guitar exploring the pain of watching all your plans fall apart. Musically, they're going for something like Nirvana, Something in the Way, or Silverchair's Cemetery. That kind of vulnerability in the middle of a heavy metal record takes guts, and I think it pays off. I'm giving this album 8.9 out of 10, and I really like it. Pretty cool EP. My number one album this week will surprisingly be a black metal album. I just thought it was my favorite. It released on March 27th. Fourth full-length album from German black metal band Abkehr, titled Wheeling zur Macht und dem Verstehen. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but released on March 27, 2026 through Vendetta Records. Title is in German, translates roughly to something like To the Will, to Power, and Forgetting. This band formed in northern Germany in 2015 as a two-piece, and they've grown into a full four-person band. This fourth album follows a three-album trilogy, so it's the start of a new chapter for them. Thematically, it deals with existential weight, atmosphere, and relentless sonic intensity. The album consists of 6 tracks. The first 2 songs are 12-minute epics. The other 4 range from the 4 to 6 minute range. Song titles are in German, so I'm going to give you just the translations instead, which is Act 1 Full, Act 2 Consumption, Act 3 Verdict, Act 4 Defiance, Act 5 Turning Away, and finally the last song is called Requiem, that closes things out. What I found interesting about this album is that when you listen closely on the surface, it sounds like traditional black metal. It's dark, haunting, intense. But underneath that, though, all these like subtle nuances. I heard hints of noise rock. I hear hints of grunge. It's not obvious. It's not in your face, but it's there. And it gives the record a depth that I really appreciated. The overall atmosphere is very dark, very heavy, and it rewards attention. And in a week with a lot of strong releases, this one stood out to me the most. I'm giving Abkehr 9 out of 10 and earns a top spot this week. If you missed last week's episode, it's coming up on the screen right now. Check it out if you have not already. If you're new here, welcome. And if you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, leave a like, hit the notification bell so you don't miss an episode. It really does help with the channel more than you know. Thanks for watching. I will see you next week.